Good morning and good afternoon, and dear colleagues. First of all, thank you so much to this meeting. As you are aware, it is in the final meeting. It is projects, and I mean in projects, and namely in energy security in Georgia. We had very interesting cooperation and during these projects. Also, as you are aware, and we had a very important meeting in Slovakia. It was energy efficiency, energy security, and renewable energy policy, CO2 emission reduction and activities in Slovakia. And we received a lot of information from Slovakian colleagues. And Alexander, also, and Veronica, thank you for your cooperation. It was really useful for the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development. Thank you very much and for Levan Mikelanzis Foundation and Slovak Aid. Thanks and Slovak and Foreign and Policy Association, and Friedrich and Ebert and Steve Tung. And I think your activities and your support is very important for the Ministry of Economy, because all time, and we are talking about an energy security, why is important, and for us, what will be in results, and for 2030 and 2040 and 2050, because as you are aware, and we have a lot of an obligation from the Energy Community Treaty and EU and directives and so much. Also, I would like to introduce some brief information from our side now, and we have a first draft of the Energy and Climate Change Integrated Action Plan, and this document is prepared by the government regulation. And we have 5 very important dimensions. And first is decarbonization and energy efficiency and energy security, also innovation and technology, also in climate change. And both ministries, and Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development and Ministry of Environment and Agriculture, and work together. And we think in the beginning of next year and will arrange a public hearing is this project, and this project will continue and during 20 and 30. Yes, and I think our cooperation in the energy security, and it's very important. We can use some information and in the other strategic and policy documents and like an NECP, because sometimes when we are talking and maximum utilization of the local renewable energy, it's a priority, but also a question is and how and when and utilize in these projects. And that's why in energy security, it's a more and critical issues and for the long-term policy and strategies. Again, thank you very much. And I think, and as we know, and this project is finished, but probably will continue also in the near future and energy security projects, because as you are aware, and here is a very comprehensive information. Sometimes we are talking energy security is energy efficiency measures, and renewable energy utilization, it's this energy security and good cooperation with the neighbors, also it's this energy security and so on. We can, and the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development and welcomes, and this initiative will continue an energy security subject in this project. If you need some official support and from the ministries, and we are ready for this. Also, and thank you very much for the local and international experts, and Georgi Mukhibulishvili and Natalia Shatirishvili, and they involved in this process. And today, and Georgi and Natalia and been introduced and the information about quantitative and assessment of the energy security is Georgia also, and probably you know, and Georgi published an information about the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and also when here is information about their and policy and objectives. I think it's very important also for the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development. Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you, Veronica, for your cooperation and for your experience. And I'm so happy to receive then your and practical and opinion and practical experience and from your side. Thank you again. I think in today's meeting then will be very, very successful. Thank you.
So let me join thanks from Marita as a second chairman, and also a person who has been involved in discussions around this project. So we are really thankful for the results of the project, because we have sound results. Our researchers have gained some important experience. They got a vision of how things are done in European countries, Slovakia, Czechoslovakia. There has been a publication prepared, and important exchange of experience, important exchange of ideas has happened, which is of great benefit. I will not take your time, just shortly I will say that we are looking forward to using this acquired knowledge, acquired vision, and new ideas in our new studies. We have started an extremely important project now with the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development. We are working on Georgia's national energy policy document, which will be a framework document for NECP, National Energy and Climate Plan. And it will give us the possibility to reflect on the realities of Georgia's energy security, what are main challenges, and the comprehensive list of indicators and different parameters that have been discussed and identified by our researchers jointly with our colleagues have created a sound basis for this work, especially in the field of energy security. So thanks again, once again, for this very good project, and we're looking forward for continued cooperation. Thanks.
Okay.
And major thanks to Leon Mikaladze Foundation for creating such a project.
Thank you for coming and attending our presentation. I'll make a presentation on the assessment of energy security in Georgia, Czechia, and Slovakia and their policy objectives. The main objective of this study, which I have conducted during the last 2 months in Slovakia, I want to first of all thanks to the Levan Michelev Foundation and Slovak Foreign Policy Association just giving me this opportunity to do this study on the assessment of energy security in these 3 countries. Okay, the main objective of this study is to identify the perceptions of energy security in those 3 countries to assess the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of their energy systems and to analyze the national energy security objectives of these countries. It's like a framework of assessment, including those previous 2 studies we have conducted on the project. It's like an attempt to create an energy security assessment framework, incorporating political, social, economic, technical, technological, economic, social, and environmental issues in a broader sense, and display the big picture of energy security at a national level. Just to show why energy security is important for those 3 countries, those examples are very important just to show why energy security is an integral part of the national security in the 3 countries, which already included in their national security concepts and strategies in these 3 countries. First of all, in 2006, when Russia energy blockade and air raid on the energy transit pipelines to Georgia and cyber attack on Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline during the 2008 war, it was the first case when energy security for our country started as a matter of national security, because then it continues to Ukraine and also those 2 countries in Slovakia and Czech Republic, where in 2009 Russia cut off the flow of natural gas to most of European countries, and including those 2 countries, Slovakia and Czechia, where natural gas supply was cut off, and during 30 days, only Slovakia lost more than 500 million euro just as a loss of the economy during that time. After that, the governments and countries realized that energy security is important for national security, and they included in their national security concepts. For example, Georgia in 2011 included it in national security concept, and later Slovak Republic and Czech Republic included their national security strategies as a integral interest of their strategies. Here is just to see how energy mix of those 3 countries look like. If we see Georgia, we have in 2019 we had 213,000 terajoule total energy consumption in the country, while Slovakia and Czechia had 2, 3, 4 times a higher consumption. And the energy mix was dominated by, in Georgia, natural gas, oil products, and followed by the hydropower, which is a local production in that countries. As for the Slovakia and Czechia, the dominated energy production, we are natural gas again, oil products, and nuclear power is the dominant power generation in those 2 countries. So yeah, in order to identify how how are the perceptions of energy security and how those three countries define energy security in their national policy and strategy documents. During the study, I have reviewed a lot of documents, and I've just listed later. The classical definition of energy security, which is also reflected in our NECP document, just Marita and mentioned, main objective of energy security is to assure adequate, reliable supplies of energy at reasonable prices and in a way that not to jeopardize major national values and objectives. This is a definition provided by the energy expert historian Daniel Yergin, which is very popular in energy security studies. As for the International Energy Agency, they are focused on the security of supply, and they define energy security as an uninterrupted availability of energy sources at an affordable price in the short and long-term perspective. And this is close to this classical definition, which is more broad and involving more complex term. We see that energy security is really a complex term, and incorporating the following key aspects, which are the availability of energy resources, physical accessibility to energy, reliability of energy infrastructure, financial affordability to quality energy, and resilience and flexibility of energy systems, and finally the sustainability. Those dimensions and factors are also mentioned and stressed, underlined by the Energy Union strategy of the European Union and in the governance regulation, which is the basis of the NECP document. In order to identify the perceptions of energy security in these three countries, with the review of a lot of documents, I'll show you in the next slide. It looks like that Georgian definition is very close to the classic definition I have just mentioned in a previous, and which is really important, and for us to have an understanding what energy security really means for us. While for Slovakia and Czechia, there is no exact definition of energy security in their strategies and plans, policy documents, and they are looking at it as more narrower term than we see as an energy union and European Union just look at it. And however, we have in this picture, we have presented the key principles in terms of energy security. Those three countries are underlining while defining the energy security. Here is presented the methodology just used during this study, the SWOT analysis, which is really important tool to reflecting energy security, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and trends on a broader picture of the energy sector assessment. And the analysis covered also the policy and management, legal, institutional, technical, and technological, economic, social, and environmental issues in the energy sector. And different kind of indicators I have used during the study. Part of them was developed under the previous study of under our project, and also the indicators which are used by the Energy Union in order to tracking the European countries' progress in energy security year by year. I have reviewed different kind of policy documents of those three countries, including energy policies and strategies, national energy and climate plans, 10-year network development plans in electricity and gas sectors, monitoring reports of security of supply, national adaptation plans, and national communications to the United Nations, a framework convention on climate change in order to identify what are their vulnerabilities in term under the climate change and global warming process. International Energy Agency and Atomic Energy Agency reports for Czechia and Slovakia, which is really important sources just to have an understanding what vulnerabilities those countries have in nuclear power development in their in energy sector, and regulators report and so on, which is really helpful and useful documents in order to analyze the energy sector and more specifically the energy security. I have conducted during those 3 months from September to end of November, stakeholder consultations with the sectoral ministries in the 3 countries, agencies, corporations, regulators, non-governmental organizations, and independent experts. And very useful and helpful was the Central European Energy Conference, which was conducted in the second half of the November this year in Bratislava, and high-level officials, prime ministers, ministers, and deputy ministers, we attended to the conference where we had an opportunity to ask the critical questions on energy security and on different issues. And this is really useful, and thanks for SFPA for that opportunity as well. Just to go to the main findings of the study are the following. I have presented now the shorter version of the presentation, because in the paper, in the study paper, you can see a lot of details for those 3 countries separately. But I have just aggregated what are the common threats, common strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for those 3 countries in energy security field. In terms of common strengths, those 3 countries have the common the following issue. First of all, is a geopolitical location, an important role in energy transit. Independent energy regulators have those 3 countries. Recognition of energy security as a national security interest, I have already mentioned at the beginning, and public bodies responsible for energy security issues have in place already in those 3 countries. High electricity interconnection capacity with neighboring countries and high level of accessibility rate on electricity are those common strengths those 3 countries have in common. As for the weaknesses, mainly there is a shortage of own fossil fuel and high import dependence, and undiversified supply sources are the main weaknesses, including also the seasonal imbalance of electricity and gas supply and demand, lack of flexible power reserves for the integration of renewables, weak strategic planning capacities, and coordination among public institutions are also common for the European countries as well. Absence of cybersecurity strategies, plans in energy sector, and lack of comprehensive adaptation strategies in energy sector to the climate change risks, high potential of energy saving and energy efficiency, and high share of fossil fuel in energy mix are those key common weaknesses those 3 countries are characterized. As for on the next slide, I'll show you the strengths, why we see that as a transit role and their geopolitical location are important in order to have as a strengths for energy security. And here you can see that energy transit oil and gas pipelines going through Georgia from Caspian Sea to the European market. And why I showed this map, because there in the future there will be a synergy for those three countries, although they have no direct land interconnection. In the future, they have an opportunity to cooperate on for example, gas trade as a swaps to use as a mitigation measures to diversify their gas supply sources and routes. Here you can see the main gas pipelines going through Slovakia and Czechia from Russia to European Union, and in the future, they are considering also the connection to the Hungary from Slovakia, where previously was considered this SCPX gas pipeline, which will have an interconnection with Hungary and then to Slovakia, going through Georgia and Turkey, and then other European countries. As for the main common threats those three countries are facing are the following. The risks related to the reliability of electricity system due to the massive development of intermittent renewable and high capacity demand technologies. These are also common for Slovakia and Czechia, like Georgia, because currently we are lacking of the capacity reserves in electricity sector to support the integration of renewable energy, intermittent renewable energy sources in the system. Increasing prices on energy products and reducing affordability of energy, risk of cyber attacks and kinetic threats to critical energy infrastructure from state and non-state actors are also common threats for those three countries. Negative impact of climate change and COVID pandemic, which had already some negative impact on energy security. And these three countries also are also the common in these three countries. Penetration of foreign capital in critical energy infrastructure, volatile prices for critical minerals are the threats which are not a long-term, but in the mid-term perspective are considered as threats, because even in the energy security, energy policy documents of Czech Republic and Slovak Republic, they're clearly underlined that non-state and state actors, foreign actors, increasing capitals from those actors in their critical energy infrastructure are a risk for the energy system. The common opportunities which have those three countries are the following: the new routes and ways to diversify gas supply sources, like including LNG and swaps I have mentioned, multi-fund support for developing projects of common interests, renewable energy, energy efficient and alternative technologies, including hydrogen now is very popular in Slovakia and Czechia. They have already adopted the strategies for hydrogen, and they're attracting more investment and money funds from European Union, European funds. New means supporting intermittent renewable energy integration in the power system, investment in the research and innovation to enhance the resilience of energy sector are those opportunities those three countries have in common, and which will in the long term strengthen their energy security. This is briefly about what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats for those three countries in energy security field, and just to go into the this is a project which have spillover and synergy with Georgia and hydrocarbon supply from Caspian region to European Union, which creates a synergy for those three countries in order to cooperate on gas supply and on energy trade issues. For example, East Ring project, which is a bi-directional gas pipeline system, potentially supplied from Caspian region and Turkish hub, gas hub. It will give an opportunity to Slovakia, Czechia, and Georgia to cooperate in gas trade and have in the future the swaps in the gas sector. As for the objectives, just after showing the big picture, reflecting strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, then it was really interesting to see what are their main objectives in their energy policy and targets in the long-term perspective for those three countries to achieve high level of energy security. And the common objectives we identified during the study, and those are to reduce energy import dependence, diversify energy supply sources and routes, increase the flexibility and resilience of critical energy infrastructure, and develop renewable energy efficient alternative technologies, including green hydrogen by 2030. Those are the common objectives those three countries set in their energy policy and strategy documents. However, they have more country-specific objectives they have already identified in their NECP documents and strategies and policies in the country's national documents. To go to the conclusion, Georgia does not have sufficient human and own financial resources to achieve its grand objectives, which are set in their national NECP document. Strong political will to strengthen strategic planning capacity and coordination with international partners, increasing investment in education, research and development, and sharing world best practices to effectively realize these objectives are crucial for Georgia. And the driver of these reforms should be the political will and not the obligations under the international treaties. As unlike Georgia, Slovakia has developed economy and sufficient resources to address its weaknesses and prevent threats. However, they still lack of need to develop sustainable integrated planning capacity and coordination among public institutions to effectively accomplish their national energy security objectives. On the other hand, Czech Republic specific objectives and targets in energy security are very specific and actively develop subsectoral strategies and plans in energy field, though new Czech government needs strong coordination action to keep up with the European clean energy transition and effectively achieve its national energy security objectives in the medium and long-term perspective. And finally, just to conclude, in the 21st century, it's to achieve high level of energy security is really challenging, even unrealistic, and there are commonalities and weaknesses and threats which can effectively addressed with joint actions on a European level. Energy has become critical factor in functioning of the states, analyzing the big picture, reflecting the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on national energy security, and setting high of the right objectives are important but not sufficient. Political will and strong analytical and implementation capacities in these three countries with regular monitoring and improvement are vital factors to effectively achieve the high level of energy security. Are those main findings we have presented in the study. However, you can see in the study more detailed country-specific issues, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and also the national objectives of energy security by 2030, by 2040 and 50, which is defined in the NECP documents also, and analysis how can we achieve high level of energy security on a country specific, on a country level. In these three countries are presented in the study as well. This is all what I wanted to present, and if there will be questions.
So thank you, Georgi. It was very interesting. In spite of seemingly very different situations of our countries with respect to energy security, there are still common problems in coordination, planning, and so on and so on. Actually, in many fields, we would wish to have the similar problems as Slovakia and Czechia have now, but there are still challenges in both. So if there are any questions, please, now it's time to ask. Otherwise, then let's pass the floor to Natalia, who will walk us through a number of indicators to assess quantitatively the energy security. Thank you.
In my presentation, I will focus more on another study that we conducted together with Georgi during this year. In this study, the main goal for us was to develop a framework for regular assessment of energy security in Georgia. And the reason behind this is that we don't have a comprehensive assessment of energy security in Georgia on a regular basis. There are some attempts by different projects and research organizations, but it's not being conducted on a regular level. So we decided to create a basis for the regular assessment of energy security, and we tried to focus and catch all the key domains of the energy security. In our project, we had the two main directions. First one is the assessment of legal and institutional framework. And the second one was the quantitative assessment of the energy security for Georgia. And in my presentation, I will focus more on the quantitative assessment. However, you have the printed versions and you can check like the results of the legal and institutional framework assessment. Just I will say a few words before I move to the quantitative assessment. I will just say a few words about this legal and institutional arrangements. What we did, first of all, we had an opportunity in this project to cooperate with the Slovak experts from Slovak Foreign Policy Association, and it gives us opportunity to look for some best practices, to check how things are being done in Czech Republic, and to share experience and knowledge between each other and help us to make our views more broader, to see the whole picture. As for the institutional legal assessments, we developed a set of criteria together with the Slovak experts. And by these criteria, as you can see, it is in the table format in this printed version. For each criteria, we tested this approach. And what we did, we just, by each criteria, we described the situation in Georgia. The same was done for Slovakia, but the Slovak experts, and we had the opportunity then to compare how things are done in these two countries. And also we considered some best practices from the EU countries. Of course, our main focus was EU countries and energy community member countries, because we are also energy community member, and that's why it was interesting for us. So this framework is basically this set of developed indicators. This is already a basis for a regular assessment, because in the future, these legal and institutional assessment can be reassessed and be updated using the same criteria. Things, since legal and institutional arrangements are not changing very fast, it can be conducted like once in 3 to 5 years, just to check the progress. As for the quantitative assessments, which I think this is the most the most interesting part of this our study, because this is the most practical part. What we did, we created 24 indicators. Some of them are energy union indicators, some of them coming from the international indexes of energy security. But what we wanted to achieve is to create a special mix that is tailored to Georgian specific cases. So we wanted to consider the national context, because all these international indexes, they are based on the principle one suits all, one fits all, which is not always the case, because each country has its own specificities. So we wanted to create something special for Georgia. And we covered 6 dimensions that we think that we cover all dimensions that are relevant to the energy security. And what we did, we created an Excel-based file that includes the description of each indicator, calculation methodology, so how we assess this specific indicator to increase the ensure the transparency of the process, the value of indicator itself, because again we wanted to test whether our approach is good, and we tried to calculate all these indicators. The value indicates ranges of the value, because we did the assessment for the base year for 2019, but in order for us to understand whether this indicator is good or bad, we need to compare it to something. So we developed a ranges of value that is not an internationally approved methodology or whatever, but this is coming from our review. So this is basically on our views. These ranges are coming from our views, and they're coming from the review of international best experience. So we were looking for each specific indicators, which country is doing good, which countries are the best, what are their values, and this we put in the ranges of a very good and etc. for the middle and low. Also, we included the data sources and references. So in future, this Excel-based file can serve as a basis of a regular assessment, because anyone can take this file, for example, we think that ministry can do it in the future, and using the same data sources, the same formulas that are already incorporated in this Excel file, again, do this assessment and check what are the results. So it will give a possibility to see how energy security is evolving in dynamics. So now I will share with you results for 2019, because at the time of this assessment, the latest energy balance that we had was for 2019. That's why we decided to take this as a base year. And the first domains that I will share with you, this is availability of energy. And for this availability of energy, we have 10 indicators. One of them, for example, is the share of domestic production of energy in domestic energy supply, which is in our case for 2019 is 21%. And as you can see on the ranges of the value, this is kind of bad, because it should be better. It means that we are more import dependent country, and our domestic supply is not high. Net energy import dependence, again, another indicator that shows the availability of energy. And here we have more than 80%, which again puts us in a very bad range based on this value. So basically, this shows that we are really net import dependent country. And of course, most of all, this is because we are importing oil products and natural gas. Net electricity import dependence, this is a similar indicator to the previous one, but now it's focused only on the electricity. In this case, we have 10%, which is quite good, but this is thanks to our hydro-dominated power system, and thanks to our ability to have quite high share of domestic generation so far. Natural gas net import dependence, on contrast, is quite high. In our case, it's more than 99%. It means that almost all the natural gas that we have is imported, and it's imported mostly from the single source, which puts us in a very vulnerable position, and we are in a very bad range on these indicators. The seasonal difference in electricity consumption is also quite important indicator for energy security. In this case, we have 1.1, which means that the difference between the seasonal electricity consumption is not high in Georgia, so it's almost like smooth. This is thanks to the fact that now in the summer we have another peak consumption due to partly climate change and partly economic developments with tourism and increasing air conditioning. This means that we have more or less stable electricity consumption, and in this parameter we are in a very good range. However, on contrast, in natural gas consumption, the difference between the summer and winter is very big, and this should be balanced, and this puts additional pressure on the energy system to balance this difference. And especially in the absence of natural gas reserves, this is a very important indicator to be considered for energy security. And not surprisingly, we have 1.7, which is quite bad. So it puts us in the bad range. Share of renewable energy sources in domestic energy supply is 20%, which is an average compared to other countries. So on this side, however, of course, we have potential to improve this number and to increase it in future. Gas storage capacity that I mentioned and all storage capacity are, of course, very important for the energy security. At this point, we have only plans to develop them. For energy storage, for gas storage capacity, it's planned to be developed by 2024. For oil, it's 2023. So before that, we are in a very vulnerable position. So we don't have the reserves. We need to balance somehow the difference in gas consumption. So we hope that by 2024 and 2023, when somebody will assess these indicators, it will put us in a very good, like storage with more than sufficient capacity, or at least with a storage with sufficient capacity. Electricity interconnection capacity in our case is very good. So it basically shows the interconnection with neighboring countries. And this is calculated as a ratio of the synchronous import interconnection capacity and the total generation capacity. So in our case, we have 41%, which is very good. The next domain that we were looking at is the accessibility of energy. And here we have quite good numbers for electricity, which shows that the majority of population, almost 100%, except for some small villages, have access to the electricity grid. This puts us in a very good range. So it means that the vast majority of the population has access to the electricity. However, to the natural gas, only 72% of the households have access, which is an average value for the EU energy community member states. Reliability of infrastructure, of course, this is very important. Georgi also mentioned in his presentation the importance of the reliability of energy infrastructure. So here we have reliability of electricity supply, which basically shows the total number of customer interruptions per total number of customers served. This so-called SAIFI and SAIDI. The second one basically focus more on the duration of each specific interruptions are being calculated and delivered to the GNERC, which is Georgia National Energy and Water Regulatory Commission. And these two represent the situation in the distribution network. So these two are being developed by the Telasi and EnergoPro, which are the two main electricity distribution companies. So as you can see, there is a very big difference between the Telasi and EnergoPro, which shows that in Tbilisi we have quite good distribution network, but we cannot say the same for the regional network. And you can see the difference is quite big. For example, for the SAIFI, which focuses on the number of interruptions, in Telasi the value is 5.9, while for EnergoPro it's 27. So for Telasi, we can say that we are somewhere in a bad, while for the EnergoPro, we are in a very bad position. So these numbers, of course, should be improved in the future. And the similar is for the SAIDI. This is also very big numbers, especially for EnergoPro. It puts us in a very bad range. Another very quite common indicators used for the assessment of reliability of infrastructure is N-1 rule. And we did both for electricity and for the natural gas infrastructure. The reason behind this indicator is basically to check whether the system is able to satisfy the demand if one of the major infrastructure is out of order. So in case of electricity, we have slightly less than 100%, which is an average number. We don't have the specific number. This was not, we were not able to obtain it, but from the expert consultations that we had with the GSE, the Georgian State Electoral System, they informed that it's quite close to the 100. So that's why we think that we are somewhere on the average. For the natural gas infrastructure, unfortunately, we don't have such a luxury of being on this, close to 100. And in this case, we have 87%. This is again an estimation. And it's already puts us in a ranges of bad, because this like implies that we will not be able to satisfy the demand in case one of the biggest infrastructure is out of order. Affordability of energy. Georgi mentioned the basically energy security definition, and in this definition, one of the important domain is affordability, that the energy is affordable to the population and to other economic sectors. Affordability of energy of households was measured as a share of energy expenditure in total expenditure of household. And we also looked not only in the share of energy expenditure in the total expenditure, but also we looked in total income, just to compare these two approaches. And as you can see, that share of energy expenditures in total expenditure is around 9%, 8.8, and in the total income, it's 8.6. So these two are very close to each other, meaning that we can like use either approach. They're very like suitable for each other. And we are here on the average. So the ranges of the values are on the average. And even though you can also assess that like below 10%, it's not a big burden on the households considering the current energy prices. Yeah, so the next one is the flexibility of energy system, and here we have three indicators. This is diversification of oil products imports and diversification of natural gas imports. In this case, we used index that is very similar to the commonly used index for the market concentration, which is Herfindahl-Hitchman index. And the scale, it shows the scale from 0 to 100, and it shows the concentration on the market. It shows basically whether there is a competition on the market. In our case, for the oil products, we have a very good situation because we have many suppliers. There is a high competition, different sources for supply. So not only the companies who distribute the oil, but also the countries from which the oil is coming are quite many. So in this case, we are in a very good range. But on the natural gas, we have problems because we have we are supplied almost for the single supplier. And of course, in this case, this number puts us in a very vulnerable, so very bad range. Volatility of hydropower generation is especially important for Georgia because we have hydro-dominated system. And in this volatility basically shows the seasonality of the hydro generation. So it shows what is the deviation of the food load hours over the average of food load hours. So it shows what is the difference from month to month of the power generation. In our case, we have quite an average data because we have like excess capacity in summer and we have deficit in the winter, but at the same time, we also have some regulated power plants that are able to use reservoir as a capacity for water to compensate for this seasonality. Sustainable, we call them sustainable energy indicators, but you also can call them as a macro indicators. So these indicators are looking at the system as a whole, more general indicators. First one is the energy intensity per GDP, very commonly used for assessment of energy security, but it's not a perfect fit for the energy security, of course, but still it helps us to see the intensity of our economy and the role of energy in this economic production. In our case, we have very bad situation, which shows that we have quite energy intensive GDP, But at the same time, we all know that we don't have energy intensive industry. So we don't have heavy industry. We have several steel production or big factories, but there are not many. So it's not because we have like production matrix, like for example, in Ukraine, but still we have quite a high value, which means that we have very low level of energy efficiency in the economy, in the economic sector. Energy consumption per capita is another measure also quite frequently used for the assessment of energy security and energy efficiency. This shows what is the consumption of, on average, per population. And in our case, we have 57, which is an average. We are similar to Romania, for example. But again, this is not because we have like high level of energy efficiency in the residential sector, but it's mostly because in many households, we don't have an optimal level of energy consumption. So sometimes people had to save energy because they cannot afford, for example, heating the whole house or having many different appliances like dishwashing machines, air conditioning, etc. So this number is not straightforwardly, it's not so straightforward. It doesn't mean that we have a high level of energy efficiency. Share of energy expenditure per GDP. This, together with energy intensity per GDP, is now shows how what are the share of energy costs in the GDP. So how expensive is energy for the Georgian economy? In here we have 15%, which is again bad, but it's not surprisingly because we have high intensity of energy intensity of GDP. Grid emission factor, this is frequent indicators used in national submissions to NFCC. It shows basically the combination in the electricity power system. So it shows the share of fossil generation in the power system. And in our case, this is 113, which is a good, like we are similar to Denmark in this case. And this is because we have hydro-dominated system, and hydro generation doesn't produce much of greenhouse gas emissions. And we also have some portion of wind. So only like those thermal power plants that we mostly operate in the winter doesn't produce so much emissions that will put us in a bad or average condition. So we are in a good condition. And if we continue to develop additional renewable energy sources, this indicator will be improved. So here's just some basic conclusions from the analysis that we did. So if we put the equal weights to all indicators, but of course, this is not the case because maybe some other study should be conducted to define what are the most important indicators out of this and to provide them different weights. But in our case, we just for us, for ourselves, we decided to see what is the overall score for Georgia. So if we give the equal weights to each indicator, we have 2.6, 2.7. And compared to other energy community member states, we are in a bad range. So we are like lagging behind an average EU member state in this regard. And the reasons for this is mainly because we have import dependency, especially in the gas. Because we have high seasonality of gas consumption, and I hope that this will be improved once gas reserves will be constructed and developed. Of course, the country needs strategic storage reserves for gas and oil products. We have very low reliability of electricity supply provided by EnergoPro, so EnergoPro distribution network should be improved. And as well as N-1 indicators for gas and electricity. On the contrast, we have good results in electricity interconnection capacity, access to electricity, diversification of oil products imports, and grid emission factor. So this was the main findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Actually, it was interesting to listen to the results for many indicators, and there's a hope that those indicators will help us to really monitor the concerns that we have in different directions in energy sector, and to quantify and to monitor the development in this field. Also, this discussion indicated a very cross-cutting nature of energy security. For instance, the amount of expenditure per household that is resulting from economic policy, from social policy, from energy policy altogether. And the same way, high intensity of GDP that is coming also from the structure of GDP, for instance, high consumption in residential sector, which is not productive in terms of GDP. And there is a thorough analysis of those indicators and the reasons behind may guide the policies, we hope, in future in Georgia. So with this, let me give the floor to Veronika Oravkova, who has visited us here in Georgia. She is an expert of SFPA who has contributed greatly to this success of this project. So Veronika, floor is yours. I'm sorry, I'm looking back whilst I should be looking forward.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having an opportunity to participate in this project, and special thanks goes to your energy experts, Natalia and Georgi, that really made a great work. Also, when we were discussing the energy security indicators, so I think that they are really well selected, and hope that when you can track them within the years, you will see also the progress in energy security, which is very important to monitor and to keep the track of the data. I would like to present also, when we were talking about the national energy and climate plans, I would maybe do some kind of a follow-up and to present also some challenges that are also in the European Union, because also the COVID crisis and, well, also geopolitical developments are showing that the situation is not ideal. So I would like to share screen with you. Okay. So I will share my screen, and maybe also to sum up with several challenges that are also here. Main features that are also in the EU plans, and also that you have presented and will be important in future, are definitely the diversification of energy sources. I like the point of Georgi that said that international cooperation is crucial. In fact, it is. That is why also the energy security within energy union is built on trust. And trust is the important word in energy security, but very difficult to achieve, especially in difficult international environment. So then there is the increasing resilience of energy systems, which we saw also during the COVID crisis. Then reduction of import dependency. This is some kind of a traditional perception of energy security, but it is still here. We are very import dependent country. Then with integrating and penetration of renewable sources, there are needs regarding improvement of grid stability, and it is especially challenging in our region, in post-communist countries, with this huge energy systems. And then, of course, it is increasing energy efficiency, but also in the European Union, it is very difficult, because we have the energy efficient first principle, but the overall calculation of national energy and climate plans show that together we are not reaching the target of 32.5% of increasing energy efficiency. So we have to make more efforts together. So when we look at the European picture, we see that interconnectivity and diversification of sources is incredibly important. In only 5 countries, Malta, Luxembourg, France, Lithuania, and Portugal, energy efficiency and renewables are key to energy security, and in remaining countries, they are not. So we still perceive the energy security as more traditional way of security of supply. In the European Union, the level of interconnectivity, which goes also to the area of international.
Veronica, may I ask to change the slides, or at least to go to presentation mode, because we are seeing only the title page only.
Okay, sorry, because I see it. Yeah, I see it correctly. Can you see it now?
No. I guess you have to press F5.
Okay, so I will. Yes, I see it correctly in my computer. I'll try once more. Sorry.
Or maybe share the screen, the whole screen, rather than a window.
Now you can see it.
See
Okay,
the first slide. Now, yeah, okay.
Okay, so I will stick to this note if it is okay. Yes, so when we are talking about the interconnectivity, the EU is okay. There is overall target 15% for interconnectivity in electricity, and just several countries are lagging behind for various reasons. But this is something that works quite good. However, the biggest problem is that the EU still remains very highly dependent on imports, and about half of the energy consumption is dependent in post-communist countries. It is even more. And the kind of important thing is the LNG that was also mentioned in your presentation. There are 7 member countries: Belgium, Italy, Estonia, Germany, Poland, Croatia, and Ireland, that are considering or planning to expand further LNG capacities. When we can see the picture, it will be also very important for our region, post-communist countries, because we will have the LNG interconnection from Poland to Croatia. On the island, there are also some interconnectors that are missing. For example, on the Polish Slovak interconnector that should be put in operation very soon, but we will have the north-south to LNG, which is very important, especially these days. You know that also the Yamal pipeline had to put reverse flow for several days already. So this is important also within the prices and the gas market. What will be challenging to energy security is the phase out of coal and also the end of fossil fuel subsidies. There are 21 member states that are committed to phasing out. For some countries, it will be difficult, such as Poland or Czech Republic. For some, it is very easy. For example, for Hungary or Slovakia, and Slovenia is still considering to phase out coal. And another issue are the fossil fuel subsidies, because with the new taxonomy, new taxonomy of the energy sources, there should be no fossil fuel subsidies in future, and it is very questionable how it will be with gas infrastructure, because gas, it is viewed as the fuel for the transition period, but it is really questionable if it's feasible, especially for our region, for post-communist country. When we look at the energy supply within the European, high share of fossil fuels, the rising gas, especially oil, that is used in transport sector. With the nuclear is considered as very important for the countries that has it. The exception is Belgium and Germany that plan nuclear phase out, which will start this year, and it will be very interesting to see how it will also change the electricity flows and what will do maybe also with the prices of electricity at the markets. But for the countries that have nuclear, it's very important to focus on diversification of fuel supply and security of fuel supply. What we have seen also during the COVID crisis, that there is still limited storage and also demand side response participation. So the very holistic approach toward flexibility is needed, and it will be needed, especially with higher integration of the renewables. So what can be improved in energy security? And definitely strategic supply chain in clean technologies, what we saw also in the COVID crisis, and the energy systems will be also vulnerable to extreme events due to climate change. Very big question mark is over the phase out of fossil fuel subsidies. There are some countries that have a very good plans to phase out subsidies, but for many countries, especially post-communist, it is still an issue, and energy poverty, affordability of energy is still an issue also in this region. What we saw also now, when with the peak of the prices in gas and electricity, there were some companies that had to go to bankruptcy and withdraw from energy market. In Czech Republic, one company left behind 1 million customers. So affordability of energy is definitely something that being also here. Regional cooperation, diversification, and flexibility are definitely common challenges for all the countries, and within the interconnection capacity, it is important to fully use the existing interconnections and not to invest into new ones. And I would close with the challenge that it is going to be important for all the countries, and not only with decentralization and digitalization, but it is cybersecurity, the need to protect against cyber attacks. And there's a lot of talks about new business opportunities in smart technologies. However, the energy infrastructure is going to be very vulnerable, and it will be a new challenge. Currently, the European Commission, together with INSO-E, is working on a network code on cybersecurity and electricity. So we'll see how it will look like, because this will be really new challenge, and we have to deal with that. So I would the floor maybe to questions and comments, and I would really very much like to thank you, Natalia and Georgi, for very good work and for the project. So thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you very much. I see Alexander Duleba is also participating, so maybe he wants to add some comments on the project or whatever Veronica was discussing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, so first of all, so can you hear me? Can you hear me? First of all, I'd like also express my thanks to the Levan Mikuladze Foundation, Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia, and my special thanks go to Natalia and Georgi for their excellent job, because actually what they presented and what they drafted and elaborated within this project is the set of 24 indicators, which is I see is a very practical tool for Georgia, for the government of Georgia, simply to have this regular assessment how things are developing or changing when it comes to the energy security of Georgia. I think there is a relevant contribution, and actually, so this was the main aim of this project, to do something relevant in this field. So there are actually many other indicators could be added. We can discuss it, whether would be at one indicator that to replace it by another one and so on. But I think as it is designed right now, the 6 dimensions, 24 indicators, it is a practical tool which might be really very helpful. Maybe one remark I have, because actually I think we have to also always think where we are and to which goals or to where we are moving. And I would like to, and when we are discussing energy security, is rather stressy topic, especially for countries which are really highly import dependent, as Georgi showed it very well, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Georgia. So this is what we have in common. But still, we have to think about the energy security, energy policy as not only as a challenge, but also as an opportunity, and a big modernization opportunity. Because actually, in my understanding, so what we have been witnessing, like the IT revolution over the last 2-3 decades, I think the next phase of the modernization in global terms will be very much connected with the green technologies. And so we should approach and think about the energy not only in terms of security, yes, in terms of politics, it's very important, but also we should think in terms of opportunity, how to modernize our societies. And here we have the climate policy, and I can imagine that from a Georgian perspective, maybe this debate, partly presented also by Veronica, I'm really very happy that Georgi could join us during the Central European Energy Conference, and he could, in person, simply to touch to this debate we have on climate policy, energy security, how to combine all that, is that we should think, in terms how we will, because the modernization of energy would mean also modernization of the society. And here I see 2 sectors that will be very important in terms of application of green technologies. And this is a transport and buildings. Because when it comes to the energy consumption, yes, the supply to households and to economic actors and the territory of the every state. So this is very important, and this is important, and this is a task for the government to ensure the supply and affordability and everything and accessibility to the energy sources. But in terms of development and the modernization, I think there should be paid a special focus on technologies and energy efficiency, reduction of energy consumption in the sector of buildings and transport, because these are the main consumers of the energy security. These are 2 sectors that we have the main problems when it comes to the emissions and to simply meeting the goals of the climate policy. So I would recommend you in thinking in the future in other steps which would indicate or thinking of the indicators which would allow us to you to measure whether you are in energy sector. Also think about the indicators that will simply give an idea whether your energy sector is an instrument for the modernization of Georgia. And that means, so if you can simply in the future think how to measure the progress in the implementation of the energy technologies, especially connected and directed and applied and related to these two sectors, buildings and transport. So this will be my recommendation. So thank you very much. It was really very interesting, very important for us. I'm very happy that we have this chance to cooperate together. And also my thanks go to Slovakia and other partners and sponsors which contributed to this project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexander. I often tell my students that energy efficiency is the feature of efficient society. So now I will add that also the technically advanced society, as you have highlighted and identified. Very relevant remarks indeed. Thank you very much. So now we can ask the questions to our participants, our presenters. So if we are a little bit late, but we still have time for questions and answers. If no questions, I have the first question, and then maybe to Veronica. Could you comment about the conclusions coming from the current gas price crisis? If there is any evidence or of clear outcomes, conclusions for energy security that are being discussed in Eastern European countries, generally in European Union?
Yeah, there. I don't want to say that it was fortunate that we had in gas crisis in 2009, but it was. We learned something. We learned a lot. We learned that diversification is important, that storage is important, flexibility is important, and cooperation is important. So we are beyond this situation that was 12 years ago. However, now it is the problem of many things. First, there is the very sharp economic recovery that was in Asia and also in the European countries after COVID crisis. So the demand of gas was higher than before, and currently there are also geopolitical disputes over Nord Stream 2 that it's still not in operation, does not have all the permits, and the storage capacities in the EU were not filled on 100 or at least 100%. There is also the situation with German Energiewende, with the phase out of nuclear that will start next year, and that is the combination of many factors that resulted in the current situation. However, the recent news 2 days ago on more imports of LNG into Europe caused also the decline of gas prices. So it seems that diversification and accessibility to LNG is very important and will be also in future, at least in this transition period, but we are talking about 20 years, if not 30, until 2050, when gas will be an important part of energy transition in the next years.
May I add 2 words?
Yes.
May I add 2 words?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So really, the first one, what will be impact of this? Because it is a sort of energy crisis we have, but we are speaking about the this affordability dimension because the price on gas is really high. Veronica identified and named some factors that led to that. This is really exceptional situation, but let me, in my understanding, so two main long-term impacts of this, exactly this one, I mean, this energy crisis, so we are confronted right now. The first, the European Commission will start what it never do to coordinate, to control the status of the gas storages in Europe. You know, on the long-term perspective, there's already agreement, all the member states agreed. So it will be a new important element which was missing simply. So this will be the first. It will strengthen the European, the EU energy security in the long-term perspective. Second, these high prices on gas will stimulate and speed up the investments into green technologies, because like the solar energy, I mean, energy produced from it is now much cheaper than energy produced from gas because of its price. So it justifies the long-term investments and will speed up of the replacement of gas, because I mean, it's not good for Russia, you know, to keep the prices, or at least that the prices are so high, because actually this is another motivation, you know, to replace the gas by alternative sources. And because of the price, all the investments now in the green technologies are cheaper and more efficient than just buying gas. And this will be having like long-term impact on the sort of the planning in the field of energy strategy, policy, etc., for the European countries. So these are my two short comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. And that comment about green energy technologies is very relevant for Georgia as well, because we have this unutilized hydro potential that we have big problems with developing, that can also, by in its terms, provide a lot of space for solar and wind power and become, you know, really a regional center even for green energy. So that new shift towards, or more emphasis on renewable technologies, hopefully will have also effect in Georgia. Thanks. Any more questions? Please. Present yourself.
Hello, my name is Nugzar Khaindrawa. I'm from Georgian Energy Development Fund. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting and quite good material to think about. Now, but I have one question. It's not a question, maybe it's like my idea that if you check last opinion polls in Georgia for 20 or 30 years, you will never see energy security in top 10 of critical issues in Georgia. And this is a really very big problem for me. To continue Mr. Murman's idea about renewable energy integration, nowadays we have big challenges to develop energy project, because unfortunately our local population do not see problems with our energy security. So my suggestion is to somehow start working on raising awareness of this really big problem for Georgia, because unfortunately, not only Georgia, in many countries, people forget about the bad past examples. And as Georgi mentioned, in early 2000, we had big problems with gas, and it was really problematic. But unfortunately, nowadays people forget about it. And I think that we have to somehow work on some program to raise awareness of our local population about these energy security issues. And our effort and help of our European colleagues will be very, very useful in this direction. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Okay.
Thank you for this comment and interaction, because I agree that increasing awareness of the population on energy security is really important. But in that field, not only the non-governmental organizations should be involved in this process, but also the strategic communication from the government side and donor organizations are needed in order to increase the awareness of the general population in the country on the issues of energy security, why it's important, and current protests of local population against hydropower development. They don't have a right understanding of the energy security, even the key principles of the economic security of the country as well. So just for information, we have analyzed that only in Georgia, importing energy costs annually about $2 billion US dollar. So which is really significant amount of money. We are outflows to the country. So yeah, this is with these examples and so other additional some examples and information, we should try our best to increase the awareness of the general public on energy issues in Georgia. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to add some information. Nuksar, thank you so much. It's a reality and issues, because as you are aware, and all times and non-government organizations are grumbling and that, and hydro is not clean energy. But by the way, we know, and the hydro and small, medium, and the big size, and it's clean energy. It is an annex of the renewable energy directives, and the plus and the solar and wind, so on. But in my personal opinion, and we need more communication with the stakeholders and the municipalities, non-government organizations, and so on, so on. More in public hearing and meetings and with them, because, and finally, and I don't know, but they don't know what is renewable energy, why it's important in the energy security part. Because, and we think, and as you are aware, in the last years, and our energy import and increase in 3 and 5% average. And also in gas and the imported and 100%, and in the households using, in power generation and so on. I think, and today and in the ministries, and we have very, human resources, it's very limited. I think, and we need more additional, and I don't know, division probably, and department, and which work of the public hearing and meetings, which introduce some official meeting with non-government organization and local people, why is important and renewable energy, because, and also in region, it's not easy in Caucasus region, and not only in Georgia. I think all information and will and share with the local and entities and municipalities and non-government organization. We need more and more close cooperation. Of course, probably you know, and we have some meeting, an official meeting, and in the NECP, it's not obligatory from the EU directives. It's Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development decided to prepare and more information with the stakeholders, but of course, it's not enough. Of course. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let me add here that there is an ongoing discussion with green activists on a national energy and climate plan, where we will have a discussion on energy security in a month or in February. So that will be one opportunity. Another opportunity is that, as I mentioned, we have started work on national energy policy, where the major step that we're going to take is to make an assessment of current conditions, where energy security obviously is the highest importance item, and then to discuss it very intensely and broadly with the public, to make a good presentation with lots of stakeholders, so that these issues become more understandable for the people. And I hope that the findings of this project will also contribute to that understanding and monitoring the energy security. So if there are no more questions or comments, then I would pass the floor to Marita for concluding remarks.
Thank you, but Murman, thank you so much again, and thank you for organizers and for today's meeting. Of course, it is a final meeting in this project, but we hope and our cooperation will continue. Thank you, Slovak and colleagues, and Peter and Alexander and Veronica for your experience, and thank you, Energy Security Assessment document. It's very important for the Ministry of Economy. Thank you for local experts and all organizers. We think and energy security, I think in energy security very huge, and the subjects, that's why we can exchange information also with the ongoing project like an USAID energy security program, and which continue enduring in 5 years. Of course, and here is and not only energy security part, here is an other renewable energy and energy planning study program and so on and so on. But and as you see, and here is a lot of indicators in the energy security, and we need a more implementation part of these projects. That's why, of course, and the energy security and program will continue, and we can exchange information with the donors to decide it and why, what will be, and for example, priority in this stage. Yes, of course, and we are ready for this, and I'm sure and cooperation will be also successful. Thank you all participants, and Geostat and Georgian State Electricity and GDF and USAID program and other non-government organization on, of course, Levan Mikhaladze Foundation for today's and participation. Thank you.
And let me thank the Slovak Aid, Leon Mikhaladze Foundation, SFPA, and Friedrich Ebert Stiftung for this wonderful opportunity to discuss these very important topics. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry. Let us wish everybody Happy New Year coming, and Happy Christmas for Orthodox Christians. And have good luck, but much better luck in next year than in this one. So, thanks to everybody.
Happy and successful New Year.
Things can only get better, probably.